Hi everybody, Pat Flynn here. A little bit of a longer video today because this is a really important point and it's just one of those simple wins that anyone can do, and you can just improve your take up of your processes and the simplicity of your processes by just following these relatively simple steps every time. What I'm talking about is leveraging what you do every day unconsciously, and that is you and your team filter out unimportant information and you learn where to look for key information. So let's say you're using your software and you're using your standard CRM, whatever it happens to be, you're used to it, right? So you know where to go. And then when you're training someone new, you've got to go slower because they don't know instinctively, I go here for this and there for that. Every little aspect is new. So their brain isn't trained on where to look for the key bits of detail. That slows them down. It just makes them run slower. It's almost like they're speaking a second language. They've just got more processing to do than you do when you're using that tool. So it just takes them time to get up to speed, and then give it a few months and they're running on that new system like they were on any other system that they'd be more used to. Now, when we think about designing our systems to support that, let's try and make it as easy to engage our processes, our instructions, our steps on how we do our things. The way I typically do that is just to have a very set, simple structure that's consistent every time so that your brain knows instinctively where to look for the key information. Just the same way when you're visiting a web page, you know to avoid the ads, you don't look at the ads, you don't even mentally consider the ads, you don't know they're even there because your brain is trained to look for the key information. So I've got one popped up here, and you'll be able to see this is just plain text done in Notepad, so you can plonk it into any particular system under the sun, no matter where it is. And you can use my favorite three. It doesn't need to be my three, it can be any, but as long as it's consistent. My favorite three are purpose, so a brief statement as to what we're trying to do with this particular task. Next is, sorry, to stress that, why that's really important is because we want people to not only understand what we're trying to achieve because they have brains, but also if they understand what we're trying to achieve, then they can better make suggestions. And with Kaizen in particular, we're always looking for every team member to have ideas and understand why we're trying to do something and how to make it better. And if we don't give them the purpose, if we just say, I want you to do A, B, C, or 1, 2, 3, then we're not going to get as good a result from our team. Next up is actions. So just straight up, simple actions of what you need to do. Now, depending on the context, when this is in a task or something that's going to get assigned to someone and they're going to get to see a lot of these, they don't want a lot of detail. It's really more of a to-do list that's designed for someone internal who's reasonably trained up. Then I keep this relatively short for that audience. So speak as if you were assigning this to an experienced colleague. Where we can build on that is with an external resource. That might be a PDF, that might be a SharePoint page, but some sort of external resource. That's where we can go into real depth around click here, click there, here's a video, here's some screenshots. But for this, just keep it simple, numbered lists so you can always see what you need to do. If it's conditional, so if there's a case of in this situation, you need to do this, it might be for new clients, there's an extra step. It might be when we're setting up a pension and it's an implementation type task, then there's an extra step. Whatever that is, just make sure that's the same every time. So I use little greater than and less than symbols, but you can use whatever you want. Just something that indicates, oh, yep, there's a question that I need to ask myself before I do step number 2 or something like that. Lastly, I typically keep the outcomes there, and that, especially when we're using technology to drive our systems and we've got, one task will trigger another task, then that's cool. Use outcomes to specify what the different things are that might happen next. So usually that's forks in the road, and I'll link to an article that I've written that covers this in greater detail. But when it's outcomes and there's forks in the road, you want to be able to say, well, which forks are going to spin out of this? It might be the client signs something, so it goes that way, or the client is yet to sign something, so it goes another way to the next step. If you keep all that really simple, then every time one of your team members needs something, has a question, is trying to work through your process, they can find the answers easily without using any mental load, without having to read the whole thing, because their brain will just drive them to the right spot. When we design all our processes, we make sure it works for everybody, no matter how tired they are, no matter how much they've got going on, no matter how many meetings they had that day, then we'll get better outcomes from everyone every step of the way. Hope that helps. Take care.